Hey everyone, welcome back to the Empower Journal, a space to create the life you want to live. In this podcast space, we explore stories of resilience, purpose, and impact. And today's guest has spent more than 2 decades navigating one of the toughest and most misunderstood professions in the world. Yes, it is enterprise sales. So whether you're a founder trying to figure out sales, a professional navigating change, or simply someone searching for the courage to keep going through difficult season, this conversation is for you. Guna, welcome to the Empower Journal. I'm really glad that you're here today, and thank you so much for saying yes.
Thanks, Devaki, for the kind words. It's great to be here, and thanks so much for having me. And I love what you're trying to do with the Empower Journal. The message is loud and clear. It's not just about people's career or titles. It's about the journey behind them. And I think that's where the real stories are.
Thank you so much. So nice of you to say that. I've been looking forward to this conversation because people often see the LinkedIn leader. But today I want to spend more time understanding the person behind that profile. So Guna, let's just start from the beginning.
I think like most young people, I really had big dreams too. When you're in college, success looks very simple, right? You imagine becoming a CEO someday, or leading a large company, or driving a nice car, living what you think is a successful life. I still remember those days vividly. My friends and I would sit at a tiny roadside noodle shop in Trichy. We'd order a plate of hot noodles, spend hours talking about life, and every now and then a Mercedes or a BMW would drive past. The conversation would stop. We'd all look at the car, and one of us would say, "One day, that's going to be us." At 20, success had a shape. It looked like a luxury car. But life had a wonderful way of changing your definition of success. After college, when I joined a company, that was my first job. It was at Naukri.com. It was a small company back then. And like every fresher, I had a picture in my head of what corporate life would look like. I thought I'd wear a suit every day, walk into the boardrooms, give presentations, and meet very important people. But reality was very different. I was on the field doing cold calls.
Okay, so the life has become about hearing no's every day.
Absolutely. Like we think of something else, we create a picture in our mind about something else, and you go there. And my manager asked me to go do some cold calls and come, you learn from the field. But within few months, I found myself sitting across leaders, CEOs, founders, CHROs, business leaders who had spent decades building companies. I remember walking out of some of those meetings thinking, oh my God, I know very little, and realized there is so much to learn. And those leaders weren't impressive because of their titles. They were impressive because of their wisdom, the questions they had asked, the way they simplified complex problems, the perspective they had built over the years of experience. And that was probably the first major lesson of my career. I realized success isn't something you arrive at when you get a title. It's something you build. One conversation, one mistake, one lesson, one quarter at a time. And that's when I stopped chasing titles and started chasing growth.
Exactly. See, that's the part nobody actually talks about. You know, people are very reluctant about the reality. Why do you think it is?
Yeah, I think there are two main reasons for this, right? The first, as we grow in our careers, we sometimes forget where we come from. We become so focused on what's next and forget reflecting on what shaped us back then.
Very true.
The second reason is that we are afraid of being judged. Nobody likes admitting that they didn't know enough, that they struggled, or that they felt lost in the beginning. We somehow feel we have to look like we've always had everything figured out. But if I'm being honest, I don't think that's how careers are built. When I look back, the biggest lessons, they don't come from the quarters where everything went well, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, they say this, don't fall in love with what you know, fall in love with what you're learning. Very true.
Yeah, true, very true.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think that's the mindset most people only develop much later in their life. Now that brings me to something that I've been wondering. You know, you're right about it. So if you just had 5 minutes and if you could go back right now and sit with the young Guna, what would you actually tell them? And I know absolutely you wouldn't talk about the titles of promotion, but I'm curious.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I actually wouldn't tell him to work harder. I think he was already working hard, right? When I look back, I
Okay.
feel for him as well, working really, really hard. I wouldn't tell him to chase promotions either, as you rightly said. What I tell him is this: never ever stop learning.
Okay.
Because the world is going to change much faster than you can imagine. When I started my career, success was about knowing the product well. If you know the product well, they will look at you and say, he's very good at the products. Then it became about understanding business. Product became just a feature. And then what is your knowledge of business, right? Are you able to uncover the objectives or the vision of the customer? That became a bigger thing. Then over a period of time, we were speaking about leadership, like how good a leader you are. And today, everyone is talking about AI, the way AI is changing the workspace. We are even speaking about whether we'll have the work tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
everything is changing around us. Trust me.
True.
Yeah, trust me, tomorrow it'll be something else. It could be a technology that we have never even imagined, right? It keeps changing.
Absolutely.
But I think one thing shouldn't change, right? Your curiosity shouldn't change. If I sit with my 20-year-old self today, I'd probably tell him to keep his curiosity on and never stop learning.
That makes sense.
See, people who thrive over the next 20 years won't necessarily be the smartest people in the room, but they'll be the ones who are adapting to the situations. And if I had one piece of advice for every young professional who's listening to this today, it would be this. As you rightly said, I'm going to repeat that. Don't fall in love with what you know. Fall in love with learning, because that's one skill that never goes out of date.
I think like every fresher listening needs to hear this. Okay, so here's the thing, Guna. We have spoken about the ambition, the learning, and staying consistent about it and curious about it. But the skill differs actually. And yeah, upskilling, of course, is the skill. And I think so many people listening are in the exact gap right now. In sales, especially, it is one of those professions where rejection is almost part of the job description itself. Like everyday conversation doesn't end with S. Every quarter doesn't go to plan, like you said. Was there any moment early in your career where you had this self-doubt, when you didn't question your profession, like why sales? Did you question yourself? A moment where you genuinely wondered, am I good enough? Like how did you come across that self-doubt? Like how did you deal with it?
As you rightly mentioned, Devaki, in the sales profession, every day is a rejection for you. One or the other rejection will follow you, right? And of course, like 20, 21, 22 years in sales, I've learned to live with it. but to be honest, I think self-doubt started much before my career. It probably started when I was growing up. I come from a small town, middle-class family. My father worked for Employment Exchange. My mother worked for the State Transport Corporation. We weren't a family that had everything, but one thing my parents never compromised was our education. They believed it was one thing that could completely change our lives. I have two sisters. My elder sister became a doctor. My younger sister built her career in IT. Compared to them, I always felt quite ordinary. I wasn't a bad student. Don't judge me.
Okay. Okay.
I'd usually score somewhere between 85 to 90%. And
That's not a bad student, Guna. Come on.
yeah, that's a good score, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
That's a very good score.
But when you're growing up with siblings who consistently score 98 or 99.5%,
That's where the insecurity comes in.
yeah, you naturally start asking yourself, am I good enough? Right? I don't think people spoke much about confidence or mental well-being back then. You just carried those thoughts quietly, very quietly, right?
You're not even sure what you're thinking about. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is how confidence feels. This is how emotional well-being feels.
Of course, yes.
Sad.
Yeah. Like many Indian parents, my father wanted me to become a doctor or engineer.
Okay.
And medicine never interested me. So I chose engineering and I joined a college called JJ Engineering College in Trichy. That's where another realization hit me. I understood technology, but I didn't enjoy coding.
Okay.
Back then, the students who are brilliant at coding were the stars of the class. I admired them. But I also knew that wasn't me. And what fascinated me wasn't writing code. I was fascinated about how companies grow, how customers would buy, how people make decisions, and all of these things. And looking back now, I think the entrepreneur in me was already trying to find his way at that point in time. That's when I stumbled into something that completely changed my perspective. During college, I started traveling from Trichy to Chennai to a place called Ritchie Streets. So I'd buy computer components and I'd come back, assemble desktops myself, and then sell them. The first computer I sold made me around 30,000 rupees in profit. For a college student, that's unbelievable, right? Like, it felt unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a huge money back then.
Yeah. And the first thing I bought was a second-hand Yamaha RX 135. I had dreamt of owning that bike for years. So I sold a computer, bought a bike.
So it should have felt really special for you, like buying your first bike with your own hard-earned money.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting.
Absolutely. And that too, I was in the college.
Yeah.
But the bigger lesson wasn't the bike, Devaki. It was the realization that if you create genuine value, people are happy to pay for it. That changed the way I looked at business. Soon, I started thinking beyond selling one computer at a time. And I got a few friends involved. I'd source the parts, we'd assemble the systems together. It was like a team. It was like a company working together. And without even realizing it, I was learning a bit of entrepreneurship, probably a bit of sales, negotiation, customer relationships, and problem solving. So long before I stepped into my corporate office or my corporate career, self-doubt I had slowly started becoming self-belief.
All right. So you have told me that you had two sisters who are amazing with academics, but you had your own way of building your self-belief. But here in the corporate world, one bad quarter and they are suddenly questioning everything, not just themselves. They question the entire setup. I want to stay with your college years for a moment, because it's like you have picked up stuff from your family and then you got dropped in the career world. But I think there should be something with your college. I thought it'll be an interesting perspective to listen from you.
It's good to go back and think about the college days. It gives a lot of memories. Thanks for asking that question.
And I have a reason to ask you this, Guna, because I've seen your LinkedIn post once about your 25 years.
Oh my God.
So, and I know the kind of reach that post got.
Of course, yeah.
But jokes apart, it's an interesting perspective, because so many young professionals today, the freshers today, are waiting to feel confident before they start. Whereas your story says start and the confidence catches up.
I mean, I'm amazed that you read my post as well. I did get a lot of impressions, right? Like a lot of likes and so on.
See, I told you.
Some of the people reached out to me as well in the message asking like, no, they want to have a conversation on this with me. But that's how it is, right? Sometimes when you're able to share the real stories, right? Like how the real stories that shaped you, and people are interested, people are willing to take inspiration from that. So during college, I was spending a lot of time in the small computer business, right? The business was exciting. I was assembling computers, making money, learning things that no classroom could teach me. But there was a price to pay. Academically, I was falling behind. By my final year, I had accumulated around 25 arrears, as you rightly said. I still remember some of my professors telling me, "You're never going to complete engineering. You will never get your degree." That hurt badly, but not because they said it, but because I knew what it meant for my parents. For them, becoming an engineer wasn't just about getting a degree. It was a dream they had invested years of hard work and sacrifice in. And I remember clearly going home and asking myself one simple question. I'm just sitting alone and then thinking loud in my mind, is this how I want my story to end? That was the question that I was asking, because it didn't go well. And I refused to take the failure. That was probably the first time I truly understood the power of discipline. I said that, no, I'm going to make this happen. And I stopped making excuses. I put everything else aside, and then one subject at a time, one day at a time. Eventually, I cleared all 25 arrears at an 85% score.
Wow. Okay. I don't think anyone listening expected to hear that, actually. And thank you for saying that loud. And I would say it's a rare mindset. Let's fast forward a little because after college comes your first real corporate chapter, Naukri. You spent almost 12 years there. That's an entire phase of your life. And when you look back today, what did those 12 years really teach you?
The biggest lesson in my 21 years of career journey was learning not to stay too long in a place where I had stopped growing.
Okay.
I spent nearly 12 years with Naukri.com. It was a fantastic organization and played a huge role in shaping who I am today. When I joined this company, it was much smaller. It was like a startup, and it still had that startup energy, right? And I had the privilege of taking leadership and growing business faster. I was growing within the organization, no doubt. Every single year, I was the top performer, multiple awards, certificates, good money, all of those things. While you're growing inside the organization, you fail to see the growth outside. That was happening to me. Growth is not only about doing well where you are. Sometimes growth also means recognizing when it is time to move. So that's why the biggest learning is staying too long with a company, right? And when the opportunity knocks, timing matters. You need to pick it up, otherwise it doesn't come back again to you. That was one of the most important lessons I've learned the hard way.
Right. So I believe it's a very, very difficult decision, because most people spend months making a decision like that. But you just walked out of a meeting, sat down and then wrote your resignation. But I'm curious, were you scared or did the excitement outweigh the fear?
No, I think it was a very tough decision. Leaving Naukri was one of the toughest decisions of my life. After 12 years, there was this meeting that you mentioned. It was a restructuring discussion. And we were in a cabin discussing a new structure, and my boss was, he was the vice president, and he was offering me a big role. I took the big role. And after like 2 hours of discussion, I came out. On paper, everything looked very positive. But when I walked out of the room, something inside me said, you need to move out. And I was not able to believe myself. Like, you sometimes feel that, right? Like, no, you're not in the right place. I don't think that you should continue and so on. And after 12 years, it happened suddenly that you're having a feeling that, no, it's over here. And then I went back to my chair, wrote a resignation email and walked away. It just took 5 minutes to take that decision. And it was not an easy decision, but a good one because it changed my entire life. Yeah.
Because we think often clarity comes first and courage follows. But listening to you, it almost feels like courage came first and clarity arrived later. I think that's true for a lot of life's biggest decision.
It is also that, sometimes you feel that you're doing well, but you're not in the right place. And subconsciously, your mind prepares. Subconsciously, your mind is telling, but you're not able to hear. And one day, the message comes out loud and clear, right? It says like, go ahead and take this decision. And so that's how it worked.
Okay. The thread I'm noticing through all of it is growth. Your next chapter wasn't just in another company because it was LinkedIn. And that's where I would like to take the conversation next. Knowing what you know, does it make you more careful or more free now?
I think it makes me more aware. Every now and then I pause and ask myself, am I still learning? Am I still growing? If the answer is yes, then I know I'm in the right place. If the answer is no, then no. I have to take the next step.
Okay.
Most times we fall into a zone called a comfort zone, right? And we fail to listen to ourselves. We fail to listen to the environment, right? So being aware is the most important thing wherever you are.
All right. LinkedIn is a household name today, but like back in 2017, that wasn't necessarily the case. What were those early days like and how did you go about building the market? Because when I read about your portfolio, it was quite enticing because you have tapped into the markets where LinkedIn had no base. You were scaling from 0 to 1. So I'm more curious to know those early days. Like, why did you make your job harder? That's what I understood when I read your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Like early days of LinkedIn were very exciting for me. I think, but honestly, it was one of the biggest challenges of my career as well. Platform was already a global success, right? The brand was well known. Millions of professionals around the world were using it to build their careers, hire talent, learn new skills, and build their professional networks. But in markets like Chennai, Hyderabad, Kerala, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, we were still at the early stages of the journey. And
Okay.
most organizations in these places were comfortable with the way they had always hired. There was one small problem. As you said, I made my life harder because I spent the previous 12 years convincing customers that Naukri was the right platform. Now I had to walk back into those same boardrooms and explain why LinkedIn could create even more value. So you could say that I had made my own job a little harder, but that's also what made the journey so interesting, right? The challenge was never that LinkedIn lacked value. The challenge was helping customer to discover that value. And I often say this, people don't resist change, they resist uncertainty. When someone has been successful doing something for years together, continuously, right, it becomes a habit. Asking them to think differently isn't easy, right? They feel challenged, they feel uncertain, they feel ambiguous. They're like, everything is working well, why should I change? That's the kind of mindset that they have. And it takes a lot of trust, patience, and above all, it takes a lot of conversations. I used to go sit down with them, understand their challenges, understand the business objectives, the vision, and help them understand that it's just not about hiring people, it's about growing the organization to the next level. And we weren't just selling a hiring platform, we were introducing a completely different way of thinking about talent. That hiring, learning, networking, and thought leadership could all exist in one platform. And over time, the conversations completely changed. The customers stopped asking, why should I use LinkedIn? That was not the question anymore. They started asking, how do I get more value from LinkedIn? And that's when we knew that the market was changing clearly. Today, when I look back, it's incredibly rewarding. Almost every large enterprise in our region uses LinkedIn in some form. Everyone knows why LinkedIn matters. We are talking about agentic AI in the recruiter's workflow. We are speaking about skills, speaking about talent intelligence. We are speaking about future of work. And watching that evolution and having that opportunity to contribute to it has been one of the most fulfilling parts of my career.
So let's zoom out a little, because you have spent more than 2 decades building businesses, markets, and leading people. But very few build cultures that continue to thrive long after they even gone. What's your philosophy when it comes to building teams?
For me, I think culture starts even before someone joins the team. Hiring is one of the most important responsibilities of a leader. I'm not just looking for skills, I'm looking for character, curiosity, adaptability in a person, and whether someone will contribute to the culture we are trying to build. Because you're not just hiring an individual, you're building an environment. So once people join, the real work begins there, right? Every new employee comes with the anxiety. They're wondering, will I fit in here? Will I succeed? What if I fail? All of those questions are kind of, ringing in their mind. And I think my first responsibility is to make sure that they feel safe. There's this line from one of my favorite movies that I wanted to quote, and it stayed with me for long, still stays with me. Asgard is not a place, it's people.
Yes, the Avengers.
It's about a people, it's not the place, right? It's not just the company, it's you. People make the company, right? So that's exactly how I see leadership. Organizations aren't built by strategies alone. They're built by people who trust each other. And at the heart of every team that I've built over the past 2 decades, there are 3 simple words. And that's my philosophy. And that is hope, trust, and faith. Hope is believing tomorrow can be better than today. And trust is knowing your team and your leader will stand beside you when things get difficult. And faith is believing that if you keep doing the right things consistently, you'll overcome whatever challenge which is in front of you. And that's my philosophy. With these 3 words, we can do wonders. When people feel psychologically safe, something amazing happens. They stop competing with each other and start helping each other to succeed. It's not that one person in the team should succeed, right? Everyone should have an opportunity to succeed, and everyone has their hand, right? That's when a team becomes more than a group of high performers. It becomes a place where people genuinely care about each other's success. And in my experience, when you take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers, and the business results will usually follow.
All right. The word culture became very fashionable these days. But culture is easy when everything is going well, but the real test pops in when things aren't. Was there any moment when you actually saw your culture hold up under real pressure? How did you carry the team through a difficult phase?
Yeah, you're asking a very real question. Now, most of the times, culture is flamboyant when everything is going well. It's a great question. I actually believe culture is invisible when things are going well. People don't see it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The real test is when a big deal falls through, when your team is behind numbers, and the entire team is feeling that pressure, right? That's when you find out whether your culture is real or whether it was just a slide in a presentation. Sales is a high pressure profession, right? Every quarter has a target, every deal matters, and it's easy for people to become anxious or even start blaming each other. Over the years, I have learned that my job as a leader is not removing the pressure, but to make sure that pressure doesn't break the team, right? One thing I constantly remind the team is to focus on what we can control.
Yeah.
Are we putting enough efforts? Are we meeting enough customers? Are we asking better questions? Are we solving for real business problems? Those are the inputs. The outputs will take care of themselves over time. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. That's the part of the game, right? That's part of sales. If someone says they've never lost a deal, they're probably not selling enough. So, as leaders, we also have to remember that people are human and they may be dealing with challenges outside the work that we don't even see. That's why the empathy becomes just as important as accountability. Right? Ironically, the day I stopped being afraid of failure was the day I became a better leader. I can vouch for it. And over the last few years, we have consistently delivered strong results. Not because we chased perfection, but because we built a team that stayed together during difficult moments. For me, that's the real proof of culture.
Okay. That's quite inspiring and fantastic too. So I think it's time to lighten up a bit. I want to take a break from all this serious conversation and let's do a quick rapid fire. What do you say?
That means you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, so no overthinking, no long answers, just the first thing that comes to your mind, really. Ready? One thing people would be surprised to know about you outside work.
I play a lot of video games.
So, how do you switch off after a brutal week of targets and customer calls?
The moment my kids come and start talking to me, work just disappears. They have a very magical way of reminding me what really matters.
So, one piece of advice you would give every young salesperson joining your team.
Have the hope, build trust, and keep the faith to win. That would be my advice.
Please tell me what's the worst career advice you have ever received?
Just keep performing. I think, I think performance matters, but if you're not learning and growing, you'll eventually hit a ceiling, right?
Okay, so one thing you wish someone had told you before your first leadership role?
Take it easy.
So easy. Here is a very futuristic interview question. 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
I'm not answering this. Okay. Professionally, I hope I'm still creating a meaningful impact. Personally, I hope I'm a better father to my children, a better husband to my wife, and someone who has contributed more to the society. Those things have become much more important to me over the years.
So last one, Guna, if you could change one thing about enterprise sales in India, what would it be?
I don't think I'd change anything because India is beautifully diverse. They say, right, every 500 kilometers, the culture changes. I think the responsibility is on us as sales professionals to understand those differences and adapt. Great enterprise sales isn't just about selling. It's about understanding people, building relationships, and respecting context.
I love that. Okay, so honestly, Guna, I enjoyed every one of those answers because they felt so real, right from the younger days to building such a huge business. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think what stayed with me most wasn't just your success story, but your honesty. The self-doubts, you spoke about the failures, the lessons, and your belief that culture is built during the difficult moments, because I've seen very few leaders express it this way. But before we wrap up, where can people connect with you?
The easiest place is LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there. I share a lot
You
of.
should be.
Yeah, I also welcome the audience to read my newsletters. I specifically speak about future of work. So I'm also on Instagram, by the by.
Okay.
So those are probably the two best places to find me.
Great. So, Guna, thank you once again so much for this conversation. And to everyone who's listening, there is one thing to take away from today. It's this: your career won't always go exactly as planned, and that's absolutely fine. Growth often happens in the gap between the expectation and reality. If this one hits home, send it to someone who's in their own career gap right now, and also DM me, lead on Instagram, and I'll send you the notes from today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share the Empower Journal. We are on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and Apple Podcast. And please do check in our site www.empowerjournal.com. And this is Dev signing off from you. Thank you once again for listening, and thank you so much, Guna. Nandri.
Thank you, Devki.